Welcome to Civil Dissent. These podcasts are about you. Ticia and Ron are speaking as citizen activists responding to the explosive conditions of our times that affect us all. In the spirit of the fairness doctrine, we will air conflicting views and you will determine what is valid. We will provide you with leads and contacts to government, business, community organizations, and more. And you take the action. In democracy, information and participation are key. Use your key, your voice, for a better world. Ticia and Dr. Ron have each traveled to more than a dozen countries and have studied political science, anthropology, and communications. We differ on our views, but we agree that our friendship is more than important than our differences. We hope you feel the same. Now, without further ado, Ticia and Ron on Civil Dissent.
Well, hello again, everyone. This is Ron Haben, and I'm with my friend Ticia Bauza, and we are about to do yet another episode of Civil Dissent, and today we will be largely talking about AI and art's creation. But first, I'd like to find out maybe a highlight or so of what's been on your radar this week, Ticia.
It's interesting, you talk about art, and art spans so much, everything from music to the visual arts. And it was interesting because the BBC on September 14th reported that they aired a segment showing parrots have been found to create tools to tap on tree branches and attract mates. But what was really interesting is different birds compose different rhythms with different shaped tools. Absolutely fascinating, because that is a form of art coming from an entirely different species that has been sorely underestimated. Now, in Israel, apparently, reported on Israeli TV, I-24, dog groomers have been grooming dogs essentially to look like rainbows with rainbow colors, or spotted like leopards or tigers. And supposedly the dyes have been safely developed for the animals. But this is again, art extending to another species in another way, or projecting or imposing our sense of aesthetics on other creatures. I find our ability to do that is questionable, how wise that is, but nonetheless, it's of interest. And you?
Well, I think that it may not be the most ethical thing to do, but I'm rather attracted to the idea of rainbow dogs, because obviously the dogs and their owners obviously are woke people, and they would be very, very popular in places like Tallahassee, Florida. You'd have to be very careful about walking your dog, because before you know it, there'll be a new prohibition about that. So be very, very careful with your rainbow dogs, Floridians. Now, as a matter of fact, roughly in the arts, I've come across two lovely poems that I'd like to read and see what we all think. And one is called Compassionate Self. It goes as follows. For COVID protection, I cannot wait. I've marked my calendar right on the date. When the new vaccine will initiate my body's protection from a gruesome fate. I love our time on the pharmacy line, talking to strangers for the very first time. We share stories, mementos, humor sublime. Relief on our faces, a comforting sign. The pharmacist tells you it's about to occur. You gird for the pain, your childhood precursor. I take a deep breath, I'm expecting an ouchie. Time to focus on the image of our friend, Dr. Fauci. Oh, right. Hard to read. Yet all of a sudden, the moment has passed. That's it? That's all? Her handiwork so fast? Phew, I made it. I'm strong. I'll climb mountains and more. Bring on that flu shot, diphtheria, and scurvy galore. Now I'm safe, content, and proud of my action. Hey, wait. Am I going to get an adverse reaction? Well, okay, bring it on. I'll responsibly bear it. It's for me, my loved ones, but COVID, I won't share it. Please, please do join me. Let's do this together. Your family, your progeny will thank you forever.
Needless to say, I disagree with that. I mean, I think that the way our immune system has evolved over thousands of years, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, has been to be general so that it can attack a multitude of things and defend us against a multitude of things. I think that what we're doing with these vaccines is we're making the system and interfering with it, making it more specific stupid. And the more specific stupid we make it, the less likely it is to be able to evolve to handle more than one thing at a time.
Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead, ding, ding, ding. I do have one more poem that, see if you like this one better.
God.
Sure. In times of uncertainty and fear, a new hope has come near. A vaccine, a shield so strong to protect us all, right from wrong. It's time to stand up and unite, to fight this battle day and night. For every life that we hold dear, let's take the vaccine without any fear. Together we can make a difference and bring an end to this existence. So let's roll up our sleeves and take a stand for the health and safety of our land. The vaccine is safe. The science is clear. It's time to put aside all that doubt and fear. Let's protect ourselves and those we love. By taking the vaccine, we rise above. So let's come together, hand in hand, and protect the future of our great land. For in unity we find our strength and overcome this pandemic at its length.
One, the science is not clear, and so much of it has been suppressed that differs with that point of view that I think everyone should be very wary and really research what they're doing, because the focus groups that have been used and the test groups that have been used to evaluate have flaws within themselves. An example, and this I tell you from an attorney who I personally know, who is personally involved in a case where a particular, the daughter of a particular client of hers has wound up completely paralyzed. The Pfizer, for example, their test group was way more restrictive than the Johnson & Johnson. They eliminated from the test group anyone who had any kind of nerve or neurological impairments, anyone who had parents who had that, anyone who, or immune deficiency impairments, anyone who had great-grandparents. So that made the test group very, very limited. And the numbers looked good compared to Johnson & Johnson, which took in a greater variety of people not placing those kind of restrictions on who the vaccines were tested on. So I tell you, research it well. Yes. Because the price is pretty big to pay if you don't, even if you live through the COVID.
Well, it also may say that the chemical formulae for the Johnson & Johnson was not as effective as Pfizer, but that's for another day.
But I just explained why. The reason being because the numbers seem to indicate that. However, they were using a far bigger test group with far more variety genetically, far more variety in age, far more variety in the countries that they came from and ethnicity, and that's what skewed the numbers in favor of Pfizer.
Well, except that we have a much larger group than you would suspect, because once they hit the market 18 months ago, we've had millions and millions and millions of people taking the Pfizer and the Moderna, and it's and still been found.
And very little coverage of who's had adverse effects and why.
Well, what we do know from the science is there, especially towards the end of the height of the pandemic, was they were not recommending the Johnson & Johnson nearly as widely. And understand, at that point, tens of millions of people have taken the vaccine. You're not going to find
a very questionable decision on their part, because
but they're alive to tell about it.
But they suppressed so much of the actual information and the actual research. Pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it is, particularly for those who are prone to believe anything off the dark corners of the internet. And they did do a survey of the various states vis-a-vis, and they took into account the population of each state. And there is one outlander, and that's Maine. But other than Maine, per population, per person, the state with the highest levels of deaths let me see if I can remember this now. I remember it's in the South somewhere. There's a lot of water. I'm remembering that. And I think they used to produce the second most amount of oranges. And wait, it's coming to me. It's coming to me. Oh, yeah, the unmasked one. That's right. It was the great Sunshine State of Florida had the highest death rate proportion of population of 49 states. I can't explain Maine, but that is part of the study. And we want to thank our governor for the great coverage or non-coverage that he gave his constituents. Of course, there are less of them now than there were before, but that's a small detail. But I do want to ask one thing, and the reason I read two poems is, Tisha, which one was written by a human being and which one was AI?
Well, both are fascinating, to tell you the truth, and both, I think, skewed in a particular direction that doesn't bring into account a lot of the information that should be brought out, such as the fact that medical healthcare workers acknowledge that the effects of these vaccines won't really be known for another 4 to 5 years, which is why many medical workers refuse to take the vaccine. So I think that's a more important issue than which of these two misleading poems it is written by AI. It just goes to show, again, the problems that can happen with AI. It can be as controversial as any human being and less predictable and less manageable. But if we go back to the concept of the show, which is AI, if we look, despite the benefits of AI with elder care, which of course was affected by COVID, those benefits can include things like, for instance, a little robot that was created called Pepper, which as a senior hugs it, it automatically takes a reading of the senior's temperature and heart rate. Pretty ingenious, even if a bit deceptive. Also, the idea that robots cannot just be used in AI for hospitality to mix drinks, but that actually it's providing what some people refer to as two spirits for those who are disabled to be able to interact with people in the outside world with a robot as their counterpart, to speak for them, to move around for them, etc. I think that's pretty fabulous. Another benefit, despite what the issues are with fakes and abuse of AI, is education. The fact that remotely teachers can teach thousands of children, teach them art is in fact millions of children actually from one location, unleashing the power of their intellect and their creativity. There's a plus. But again, they can do this in multiple languages, and the need for repetition of information for those who are slower, possibly mentally disabled, is not an issue. And I think those are the positive things relating to art and many other things. However, I think it's very questionable that AI really can use content without consent, or compensation, such as what the writer's strike was about these past few months. Now they've reached a tentative agreement. The union has given them permission to go back to work. However, it's still contingent on a final vote, which has yet to take place.
Well, I've never actually heard the term misleading poetry before. That wasn't really coming from Tisha. That was an AI term that she just learned from the cloud. So, no, this is anything but. But again, I return to the question of the two, and I ask you to think about this too. Which one of those was generated by AI and which was generated by a human being? And the reason why I think most of you have got the answer, but the point is that you can see that AI is coming closer and closer and closer to the human product. I happen to be a friend of the person who wrote this. I think he's maybe among the most marvelous people I've ever met, and it is a guy. I'm very fond of him. And it took about 45 minutes for him to scrap this together, and the AI version took 20 seconds. And in that brief time, we can see that the two are almost comparable. At least AI is getting closer. I don't think I'd want to try this again in 2 weeks. It might be frightening. But we're going to take a break now. We'll step out for a moment, and we will return with Civil Dissent. Welcome back to Civil Dissent. I'm Ron Haben. I'm with my friend Tisha Bauza, and we want to just acknowledge a few friends of ours. We'd like to acknowledge our friend Peter across town in Orlando, who does a terrific and fun and informative podcast that drops weekly. It's called Scotch and Good Conversation. He is part of the burgeoning Orlando podcast community. We'd like to, of course, thank America's version of Abbey Road, which is Castledore Studios, the production facility here in Winter Park, Florida, which is amazing and wonderful. And if you're thinking this audio is of really high quality, Castledore Studios is why. We'd like to also thank very much San Julian Cafe for providing our nutrition and nourishment and the delish, and we are grateful and admiring of such intent, and keep it coming, please. And of course, our wonderful announcer Tom Saunders. And one other thing that's been bugging us, and that is there is a bill working its way through Congress that would like to charge people for listening to radio, and part of the plan would be to eliminate the AM band. And I think that's elitist. It doesn't seem fair or right. And so there is something we can do about that. It's under the rubric of support AM radio. And so what you could do is text the following, 52886, 52886, and let them know that you want to keep AM radio in the automobile now and forever.
Yes, bravo, bravo.
And Tisha, you take it from here.
Well, I know that there's discussion, for example, of using cryptography watermarks on images to distinguish the fakes from what is real. However, that really yet has to take place, I think, effectively across the board. And just because some countries may use it, others may choose to ignore it. Now, it's interesting. This refers not so much to art, but something that I want to share that our engineer brought to our attention, which is the fake robot calls. They may not be art per se, but they are artful. And the things that he mentioned to look out for example, is the current technology. The phones used filter out background information and noise. So if you hear a call with that kind of background noise, be suspicious of it, if nothing else. If the voice is too crisp, be suspicious that you're talking to a robot or it's talking to you. So having said that, I'd like to go into some other issues. But first, let's hear from you, Ron. What do you think about AI and art?
Well, it's a very complicated and emerging field. There's no question about it. And just like anything else, any technology, there's real good and there's real bad. And again, just like the invention of the wheel or the telephone, it's who's using it and intent, which is so important. And that, relies on the better angels of our nature or the dark side of the moon. And on the positive side, I have seen creations of art that are clearly from AI and AI only. Some of the art that I've seen, the strict art that I've seen I don't happen to care for it, but there's a lot that look like metallic figures, and there's some that are metallic in 3D and really bright, bold colors that are rare, if impossible, to get that exact hue, or just if an artist is lucky, they can get that. So I don't really care for it, but hey, there's a market for it, and who am I to judge? You can do a lot of things with AI in an artistic community. I just demonstrated a pretty cool poem that in 2 weeks will be even, I'm sure will be even better than the one I read. So there's a lot there. Then there's a gray area where an artist could lose money because the AI has imitated, because they're machine learning almost beings, or devices at least, that can copy, and then whose art is it? The artist, the independent artist, loses money because they've got a competitor out there. On the other hand, the gray area is, what if AI takes a style of art? Let's just say Picasso, and a period, say the blue period. Well, if he does a compilation, or it does a compilation of Picasso, some of it may be recognizable, and some is just Picasso-like. I would suggest that would be independent art, but the laws have not yet been written, and we are in a tricky thicket, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. But what's interesting, now that you mentioned modern art, for example, is that at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, an artist was commissioned to create an AI exhibit, and he's created something essentially the size of a wall. And the museum has allowed him to take essentially images from all of the museum's collection and let the AI computer, create new images from that. What's interesting is not only that it's visually captivating, but as I watched it, I thought to myself, gee, this is so similar to how children learn, for sure. And so it'll be interesting to see what it really does come up with in the end. Why it's interesting, and why I say it's so much like what children do when they're learning art, is it seems to have begun with an array of colors and creating combinations of colors in relationship to each other. Now, the way that this exhibit is designed, you will never see the same image twice, which is quite fascinating. So God only knows how one would copyright such a thing. In any event, I think there are still issues of people being meaning-making machines. That's what people are. That's what they are when they tell stories. That's what makes the story authentic to the author, okay? How do you transfer that to what kind of a meaning, if anything, an AI would give a particular work that it creates? Even though there is a robot in Europe, I believe in England, who they're debating if what she is creating is original or not.
Well, I certainly wouldn't go to it for recipes, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
But, or dare I say, dental work, but that's a whole different discussion. I am aware of some of the very latest of AI, and some of this is pretty cool. For example, if they're working now to advance Alexa and Siri, for example, and not only are there increasing their vocabulary and their understanding of words, and that soon you'll be conversing with said machines. But one thing that I think will make many people happy who are wondering about dinner after a hard day's work, and they open the refrigerator, what to do? Well, you point a camera at the contents of your freezer and refrigerator, and very quickly out will come about 20 recipes from that which you have ingredients,
in fact,
including recipes.
Excuse me, just for a moment. just so that you know, they've found that some of it has made recipes with bleach. So, I mean, everybody be careful.
You mean just like the cure for COVID?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. That's that's what they call a presidential recipe. Now, what the other thing is, they are coming out with both male and female voices, so that in fact you can have accented British, or you can have your own male robot, a bot which sounds like a servant, a butler, or you can have male, female, and even multi-languages coming out of your Alexa or Siri as they continue to make their brains, if we call that brains, more complex, and they're coming fast, folks. So be very, very nice to your next device. You never know; they could tell secrets on you. Anyway, you know what? We're up against it, and so we'll have to say goodbye. And it's a bit of an exaggerated goodbye this time, because Tisha and I are going to take a little break, and we are grateful beyond words for how wonderful the feedback on the show has been and continues to be. And we are delighted that you love it. We love doing it. And here's what's going to happen. We will reconfigure and add and take your suggestions
and relaunch.
And starting January, we can even wave to you because we are going video. And so we are very pleased. Yes, go ahead.
I would say that that's still in development stage, and so we will keep you informed.
Right. And if it's only me on camera, why, you'll be doing yourself a favor. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but there's a very good chance of that, and we will be expanding, exploring, and exploding. And in the meantime, there are many shows to listen to, and so we invite your friends, your family, co-workers, and again, we really appreciate your time, and we thank you very much. And again, if you are agreeing with one of our opinions and that turns you on, contact the politician, contact the cultural representative, contact the business organization. Give them your point of view. If you have your own independent point of view, act on that as well, because we don't really succeed unless you take action to make your life more interesting and better for each other. Take action. And here's Ticia to say goodbye.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone, and I'd also like to say, take this opportunity to send whatever ideas you have to the website so that we can create shows around what interests you. So please give us your ideas.
And Tisha, I've absolutely loved working with you. As I've said to you many times, I would not work with anybody else. I wouldn't even work with myself alone.
Oh God, you are so kind. You would be good no matter who you worked with. For goodness sakes, you bring out the best in them.
Well, you bring out the best in me, and I think you bring out the best in the audience. So, in conclusion, may I invite you out for a café con leche?
That would be so nice. Thank you so very much.
See you all later, and thanks for listening to Civil Dissent.
See you in the new year. And what is the expression?
Oh, and Leshana Tova.
Which is the...
Happy New Year. Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Civil Dissent. If you agreed with a view you've heard today, or if you have thoughts of your own, go to our website, Civil.Senate.gov, to find references where you can make a real difference. Take action, and see you next time on Civil Dissent.